Welcome back to the internet. Sorry I've been a little bit spotty with my uploads lately. This is probably one of the busiest times I've ever had in my life. But I'm not quite done with this channel just yet. I actually tried making a video yesterday, but there was just nothing good on Reddit. I sat down to record, and then I ended up just cutting pretty much every story. So we're gonna give this another shot. I don't work for you. Stop calling me. So I was in the service line at my local grocery store to get a money order, because it was far cheaper than the bank. The line is very long, so I take out my phone and browse Reddit to pass time. Suddenly, I hear an "excuse me" from the man behind me. He nicely asked if he can use my phone to call his boss, and that it was important. I obliged, and he stepped out of line a bit, but I could still kind of hear the conversation. It sounded like the person on the other line was furious, and the man could only get in "yes" and "okay." It was a quick conversation, and he gave me back my phone sheepishly and left the line. His boss must have really been upset to make him leave this line. It was extremely long and slow-moving, and we had been in it about 20 minutes at this point, and we weren't even at the front. However, I thought nothing of it. That was my mistake. About a half hour later, I get a call from the number the man had called. It was a gruff-sounding man on the other line, asking me where I was. Quite rudely, I may add. I told him I don't work for him, and hung up because I was driving. Mistake number 2. Later, when I'm at my job at the library, I keep getting calls from the number. I work tutoring students, so I ignored the calls, but they kept coming. Finally, I pick up, and our conversation went like this. I say, "Stop calling, I do not work for you. I'm at the library working with students and can't keep bothering with my phone." The guy says, "Why on earth are you at the library? You need to pick up this for me now." I say, "I do not work for you." Says, "You won't if you keep up this behavior." I just hung up and blocked the number at this point. I couldn't deal with him anymore. I just hope I did the right thing. The man I let borrow my phone seemed like a nice guy, and I don't want to get him in trouble. Sorry this ending wasn't too exciting. Well, I feel like saying "I don't work for you" maybe was not the most clear thing you could have said. You could have just said you have the wrong number at the very least. But who knows, it might have gone just as bad. I'm not driving your kids to school. So I'm an elementary school teacher. Last year, a boy moved mid-year into my class. His mom had hit hard times and moved back in with her folks. Myself and the boy hit it off. Since he and his little brother have autism and we got along so well, Mom requested me the following year for the little brother. Cool, I like these kids. Always nice to be requested. This school year rolls around, and the school secretary informs me the little brother might not be long for my class. His mom mentioned they were moving. Well, he remains, and we figure they either didn't move, or moved but stayed within the school boundaries. But then I hear things. Notice things. Essentially enough to make me suspect they not only moved, but moved clear out of the district. I mentioned it to the secretary, who had also noticed things that suggested as such, including the delay in bringing documents in for registration. We don't have any updated info at all, which we are supposed to have and are begging for, but the mom is a bit of a slacker on such things. Technically, students are supposed to attend the schools within their boundaries, and certainly their districts, but it's also something people turn a blind eye to, so I figure I'm not going to make a fuss. But the mom is starting to. She hasn't fessed up to moving, but she's making excuses for the paperwork, while getting upset over the IEP she wants to request for the little brother. I may be able to turn a blind eye, but special education funds won't. This week, I get the info and the entitled parent moment. She calls me, needs a huge favor. Her car broke down. She can get to work, but the boys to school... See, I live in a city 20 minutes south of the school. A nice commute on the freeway. This summer, she moved, finally the confession, to a city 10 minutes south of me. The boys liked where they were, so she doesn't want to transfer. She knew where I lived. Would I be willing to drive down to her city, pick up the boys, and drive them to school? Lady, I like your kids. I am willing to not make a fuss about your unofficial district exception, but I am not doubling my morning commute and filling out paperwork to make it legal for me to drive your kids when it's your responsibility to get them to school. I said it more diplomatically. She said it was because I hate autistic people and I'm a useless teacher. You know, it's kind of great when, you feel bad that you can't help out someone that you want to help out, but then they just turn around and insult you and you're like, okay, well, now I don't feel bad anymore, thanks. Paid drive time for zero work. So a couple of years ago, we had a minor virus outbreak in our branch office. The email came in at 7:30. I hopped in a company car and drove down ASAP. I got in the parking lot by 8:30, started working on the issue and had the affected workstation offline, packed up in the trunk of my car, and a new workstation in place of where the virus had come from. After all my testing, it was pretty much locked down by 1 p.m. I love the 1-hour drive to and from that office. It's 2 hours of paid mess-around time, honestly. Have a cigarette, listen to the radio, not dealing with the pointless nonsense from my supervisors. Just 2 hours of paid woosah. Taking that full hour to get back to the office, I get back by 2 p.m., throw the workstation on my desk. 2 hours left in the day I'm gonna coast on through. But then, My boss starts shouting at me. OP, what are you doing? Get off your lazy butt. Get in a friggin' car and get to the branch office now. They have a service outbreak. I am somewhat thrown back. The issue was resolved when I was there. What happened? I look over the shoulder and noticed she hadn't opened her email that day. It was 2:30 p.m. and she just now opened her email for the first time. She just now saw that we had a virus in our branch office. She just now thought it was the appropriate time to act as the IT manager and read her emails at 2:30 p.m. Okay, another 2 hours of drive time, getting me overtime, 4 hours of total silence throughout the day without people yelling at me. Sure, just make sure you don't read the follow-up email that is literally one line above the one that you just yelled at me for. I got overtime pay because traffic backed up this afternoon in an area that's already an hour and a half away from my house. Took 3 additional hours to get home when I came to the office the following day. My boss apologized, said I should have told her it was fixed. I told her I thought it was something I missed. Nah, I just didn't want to really do any work that afternoon, and I got paid overtime in the process of not working. Pretty marvelous if you ask me. You know, normally I avoid any jobs that require me to have a long commute either way, because I always feel like the drive to work is when you were actually paying to go to work. But man, if I got a job that paid me for commute time, I'd get a job that was 2 hours away. You're not my servant. So it's customary for the baggers at my store to ask people with larger orders if they need help bringing their purchases to their cars. Generally, you'd ask as you finish bagging the order, after the cashier had finished taking payment, so there's no interrupting going on. Well, one day, I was bagging a large order and was waiting for my turn to speak. The customer, let's say Sally, was actively chatting with the cashier, so I wasn't keen on interrupting. Then, without missing a beat, Sally turns to me. She uses the flattest, least friendly voice possible when speaking to me, a far cry from how she addressed the cashier. She says, "You're gonna help me out, right?" I say, "Of course." She says, "That's what I thought." I was a bit taken aback, but it was hardly the worst I had dealt with, until I start to follow her out with a cart of groceries. You see, our front end is very busy during prime time, and there's only enough room for 2 people side by side. So in the interest of not blocking opposite traffic, people walk single file. We didn't even make it 10 steps before Sally stops, turns around, and gives me a stink eye. She says, "Don't walk behind me, you're not my servant." I say, "Sorry miss, I'm just following you." She says, "Well, don't stand right behind me." I say, "Ma'am, there's no room to walk anywhere else but behind you." She seemed satisfied with that answer and kept walking. Once we got to her car, she made it abundantly clear that I was to place my bags in a very specific manner in her trunk. She would roll her eyes every time I went to place a bag, and then tell me to move it to a different area of the trunk. By the time I had loaded all the bags, I was mentally drained. She closed her trunk and got in her car without saying a word of thanks, and sped off as soon as I was out of the way. I never saw her in the store again, and I can't say that I'm disappointed. Now listen here, I'm going to treat you like a servant, but you're not allowed to treat me as if you're my servant. This sounds like the kind of person who actually has, like, servants around her house, and just can't stand the thought of doing anything by herself. Entitled Aunt fakes cancer for money. I just wrote this story and thought I should say that my mom has a rare disease that causes reoccurring cancer, so the closest hospital that can handle it is in Colombia, which is about 4 hours away. So first, some backstory. My mom had cancer, but got over it. This was around Christmas time, so we had no money, having to get a place for a few weeks out of our city. My dad wanted to be as close as possible, but honestly we should have just stayed in her room. That's what he usually did anyway. And my wealthy aunt wanted to sponsor us. She's so great and humble that she didn't want us to know, but I heard my parents talk about it. And I guess word spread around that she was helping her. Quite a lot actually. And my aunt wanted some, so from what my mom said, this is what happened. So my entitled aunt says, "So I heard my aunt was helping you with Christmas." My mom says, "Yes, why?" She says, "Well, I think you should maybe talk to her about helping me too." Her husband makes plenty of money, but she spends it on random stuff. My mom says, "I think you might want to talk to her yourself." "Well, okay, but if she asks you about it, give me a good word, okay?" My mom says, "I don't know, I'll have to think about it." She says, "Okay, love you." Love you too. The next conversation is a little bit after, when my mom calls my aunt, because the entitled aunt is known for doing all sorts of things, so my mom is calling to warn my aunt. So my mom says, "Hey, so the entitled aunt just called me, asking me to ask you about helping her with Christmas. Has anyone else called you about it?" "No, but why would she even need that? They make plenty of money, and they don't even have kids." She says, "I don't know, but I was just calling to let you know that." They exchange their goodbyes, and then my nice aunt gets a text a little later, saying, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that I'm at the hospital, and they said I have cancer." She says, "Oh really? That's crazy. I can't believe this." Obviously not buying it. Says, "Yeah, I know, and Christmas is coming up, and I'm not sure I'll be able to afford it with all these bills I'm going to have to pay. So I was wondering if you could help me out with how you're helping Mom." So she says, hold on, can I FaceTime you so we can talk face to face? No, I don't have any service. It wouldn't load. That's unfortunate. Yeah, I know. Okay, I'm going to call Mom because, as you know, she's checked in there too. As you know, and let her know the situation, so maybe you can get put in close rooms. Then she calls my mom. My aunt explains the situation to me and my mom, laughing so much, and then my mom says, sorry, Entitled Aunt, I just got off the phone with Nice Aunt. She said you were here with me. Ask them to move you close to this room number, and we can be close to each other. She says, sorry, I can't. I'm in critical condition, so any sudden moves like that could kill me. Sad emoji. The next few texts are pretty boring, so I'll skip them. Pretty much just my mom saying how she is so sorry and how she knows how she feels. My mom is giving my nice aunt updates all this time, and then she starts texting the entitled aunt. Says, hey entitled aunt, I'm going to call the hospital and have them put your bill on my card, because this must be terrible for you, and I'll send you the money right after. She says, oh no, you don't have to do that, I just need the Christmas money. Says, no, it's my pleasure. She calls the hospital just to be sure she wasn't there, even though she was 99% sure she wasn't. Says, hey, I just called the hospital and they said you weren't in. Can I have your room number so they know where to find you? She didn't respond. Well, I hope I was able to make some sense of that incredibly poorly written story. But now let's move on to the question. Non-cashiers of Reddit. What's the it didn't scan, so it must be free, of your profession? Receptionist here. I previously answered calls with, company name, how may I help you? And 50% of the time, or so it felt like, the response I'd get was, well, I don't know how you can help me. I switched it up to, how may I assist or direct you? But I still get the old, well, I don't know. It's not cute. Just tell why the F you're calling so we can both move on with our days. You guys ready for some work cringe? I'm obligated to ask those visiting my workplace if they have any weapons to declare. Just these guns, flex. Thank you, sir. That is very impressive. I recently went through the U.S. Customs, and the officer asked me the standard, do you have cash more than $10,000 on you? Question. I responded, I wish. Her response, if I had a penny for everyone who cracked that joke in front of me, I'd have the $10,000 by now. I totally deserve that. I think we're all going to feel a lot less witty by the end of this video. The lady that draws my blood said that she was tired of people calling her a vampire. That's okay, I often get called a skeleton too. I work in an office, and the boss often leaves me in charge if he's away. I have one coworker who, every time I'm covering, will arrive in the morning and say, hi boss, since you're in charge, can we all go home now? That, and, are you working hard or hardly working? I swear I've heard that last comment from every boomer in the world. But as for that coworker guy, you should just say, you can go home, and since I'm the boss, you can just be fired now. I work in a call center. I have to ask, was there anything else I could help you with? At the end of the call. Yes, bring me a coffee with that. Make the sun shine again. Got the winning lottery numbers? Yeah, what's your number? You have a sexy voice. I just ignore them now and wish them a good day. See, if you get good enough at detecting these, you could just hang up on them halfway through their sentence. When I worked at a ski shop setting up snowboard rentals, I'd asked how they wanted their stance, regular or goofy, so I could set the bindings up. At least 3 times a week. For the 6 months a year we did rentals, for the 4 years I worked there, I heard from dads, well, he writes regular, but he's pretty goofy, ha ha ha. By the end of my time there, I never even bothered with a fake chuckle anymore. I just didn't have it in me. This is the sign of a broken man, and to be honest, I feel that way about stories sometimes. But that's about as much cringe as I can handle for right now. Like I said, I'm pretty busy, both with running this channel, doing the whole monetization project, and doing my part-time Halloween job on the weekends, and I've got a lot going on right now, so I'll probably only get up maybe like 2 or 3 story videos a week. I'm gonna put in a lot of effort to make sure the scary story videos still go up every weekend, but yeah, hopefully things will calm down. But one thing that hasn't been calming down lately is the cat. I've got lots of videos lately of her just going nuts, so enjoy that.